gents, Hollie's Hotspurs, welcome back. Talking Tottenham every week, no better place to be sat. If it's a win, lose, draw, we'll be here for a chat. Best believe we tackle topics like Romero in the back. Young Min Son, what can go wrong when he's on form? It's a dream come true, so sit back, relax and vibe with us. Special guests every time here to discuss. Bring your passion, come along for the ride, and don't forget to subscribe, cause...
Hello, ladies and gents. Yes, people, we are finally back. The 25-26 season is very much on the horizon. It's coming up thick and fast. So what better way to kick things off than with a preview show with two fabulous guests. First of all, I'm joined by the amazing Sonny. Sonny, how are you tonight?
I'm really good, and I'm actually surprised you've got time to spend with us, Hollie. Usually it's with Michael Dawson or Ledley King. Watching that intro, I remembered or even the current players, Vicario, I think it was as well. So, no, pleasure to be here. I'm glad we're part of your alumni.
No, thank you. Like I say, those ones were luck. I'm glad to be here with you guys tonight. I'm really excited tonight. Thank you. But also joined by Billie T. Billie, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, very good. Very good. Happy to be on with two of my absolute favourite Tottenham content creators. I've been crashing out a lot lately, but you guys are always very positive and good vibes. So I'm looking forward to this. And finally, we've got at least starting to get a bit of good news regarding the club anyway. So yeah, looking forward to it because I've definitely been crashing out lately, not going to lie.
No, I feel that as well, to be honest with you. I think we're guaranteed a bit of luck in the next couple of days, but we're going to get into that and more tonight. But also, welcome to everybody that's also in the chat too. Lovely to see you all. I'm sure you're going to rewatch this later as well. But first things first, let's kind of kick things off because it's been a little while since I've done a live show and I'm excited to be back. And a lot of stuff has happened between then and now. So first of all, Sonny, I'll come to you because I want to talk a little bit about pre-season. We've had a few games. I know we've technically kind of finished pre-season now with the PSG game on Wednesday, but how have you kind of found things? Obviously we'll get into it a little bit deeper later, but how have you found it overall pre-season? Oh, Pete, you're on mute. I'll go to Billie. Billie, while Sonny sorts that out, how have you kind of found pre-season so far?
Yeah, do you know what? It's been a bit of ups and downs. I was really buzzing after the Arsenal game because I thought that was an amazing performance and not the kind of thing that we've seen for a long time, that kind of digging in against a really good Arsenal team. You know, the last few games against Arsenal have been horrific, been absolutely horrific. And when we kind of got Thomas Frank, that was the kind of performance we were sort of all hoping, I think, to make us sort of competitive in those big games. I was really buzzing after that. And then since we had the Newcastle game where I thought we'd look a bit more naive and a bit more susceptible like we did last season, and then the Bayern game, which was just absolutely horrific. It was terrible. I know, obviously it's difficult to compare yourself to Bayern Munich, who are obviously one of the best teams in the world, but still, it was a bit concerning for me. So it's kind of ended on a bit of a sour note, but definitely some positive signs. And then being my absolute favourite player, James Maddison, obviously, and it's been clouded with two things. One, the Son thing, obviously, which I'm sure we'll go into in a bit, but that's been incredibly emotional. But James Maddison getting injured is just, it's as bad as it could possibly get, I think. It's really knocked me for six. I think this was going to be his season, really. I think he was going to step up with Son leaving. It's kind of be like the face of the club, and to lose him for essentially most of the season already is a real heartbreaker for me.
No, definitely. Sorry, Billie, I cut you off there because I've been trying to play around with this thing that I haven't used in ages. You can tell I'm a bit rusty. But no, I think you basically hit the nail kind of on the head there. It's been a bit up and down at the moment in pre-season. And it'll be interesting to see how that kind of sets us up for that game on Wednesday. But Sonny, I also want to get your thoughts because Billie's obviously spoken about it was great to beat Arsenal, always is great to beat Arsenal. But then it kind of finished on a sour note, obviously losing quite heavily to Bayern Munich. So how have you kind of found pre-season?
Is my mic working? Can you hear me loud and clear? Honestly, that's typical, isn't it? I literally was about to speak and it came up on screen. Sorry about that. But, I mean, overall, if you take that Bayern Munich game out, I think Tottenham have had quite a good pre-season. If you look at the competition we've faced, even like the Reading game, that was the first game, obviously, of Thomas Frank's tenure. That looked quite good. I know it's Reading. I know they're League One. I know they're going through a lot of trouble, but it looked more resolute. There was good performances from like Vuskovic, so there was a lot to take from it. We then had the double header of Wickham and Luton, which, don't get me wrong, neither result was great. I mean, it was good to see Saar playing the 10, and he's looked quite effective in there in places, but obviously not the finished article as a number 10. Luton, even though, it was a bit of a funny game, it was good to see us, try and play a different style of football, I guess. I know they outshot us and a bit more position as well, but preseason isn't like one of those things where you can just take everything at face value. You've got to just sometimes roll with the punches and just wait till the actual season starts. But then I guess the Newcastle and the Arsenal games were the positives. Two really good performances, something that we didn't see. I mean, even the Luton game, we didn't see that under Ange, like no 0-0s in his whole tenureship, which some people would laugh at when I say it. But sometimes you do need a 0-0 to just like reset yourself and just, focus on some of the important stuff in football, like defending and, keeping the ball out the back of the net and whatnot. But I think we played well in the Arsenal game. We managed that game well, even against Newcastle. I think what we've seen is and it was even the case in the Bayern game, I think a lot of our opponents are going to have a lot more chances, but not convert a lot of their chances. I know Bayern did in the end, but they did have like 21 shots, 7 on target, 4 goals. Whereas been more efficient. We've been like 7 and 5. So when you look at the data, it does look okay. I guess what Thomas Frank did learn from the Bayern game was Palhinha and Bentancur maybe doesn't work as a midfield two. It's one or the other when it comes to those two, depending on who we're facing. Sarr is not the answer always in the 10. He then did realise we need a creator, and the person who we've been linked to today, we'll probably talk about him soon. He will be fundamental, hopefully, to create more opportunities. So I think it's been quite positive. And we've also got to remember, Bayern Munich is still one of the best sides in Europe. Harry Kane, Elise, Kingsley Coman's now left, but like they had lots of top attackers. I know they've got rid of Muller and Musiala's injured, but they're a good side, and they did come at us and gave us a good game, and that's what's going to happen. Hopefully, we can compete with the likes of Newcastle, Villa now that we didn't last year, Arsenal maybe, but the Champions League there might be a golfing class when we play the likes of Bayern, Real Madrid.
That Newcastle game was crazy, wasn't it? Like the intensity, it was like a Premier League game. I think it was really good, like in terms of fitness and stuff like that. I think that's exactly what you want, because it was like watching a Premier League game. Honestly, it's a bit too intense at times for a friendly, but geez.
But it also was a bit testimonial as well. That one, yeah. I found that was the most because of Son. Like there was a moment where Son was through on goal and he should have squared it because it's his last game. He shot, and it's like, well, can you really like in the Premier League? He wouldn't do that, would he? Like that wouldn't happen. So
and Guimaraes and Romero, that little battle was like you don't see that in a friendly very often.
I know.
Right, and I think that's the thing. I think obviously the Newcastle game was great, and again, like we've kind of mentioned, and we've spoken about Sonny quite a lot, and I don't want to make this show all about Sonny because I think all in our own little worlds and on loads of YouTube channels, we've kind of done our bit on Sonny. But I think the biggest thing for me, Billy, obviously it happened in that Newcastle game, and I know you mentioned it earlier, is James Maddison. Obviously losing him, we've lost Sonny, we're not going to have Decky fit at the start of the season. For you, is that the biggest worry that you have with Frank and the way he likes to play, not having that creative midfielder and someone has come in and scored the goals that we had with Sonny?
That was a big worry, but also a big worry that I had is that we don't really have any star power anymore. Like losing Son and Kane in like 2 successive years is pretty huge because they're always like, whatever you say about them, wherever they turn up, the opposition are always going to make a plan for them just because they have such an incredible reputation as two of the best players the Premier League have ever seen. I was a little bit worried about having sort of losing that bit of X factor that Sonny has always given us, even in his last seasons. I think he got something like 20 GA last season across all competitions, which was a poor season for him, but a good season for most of the players. I was a bit worried about that, but then obviously the player that we're linked with today and over the last couple of days, I think that's kind of what we're missing, that sort of X factor that will give opposition a bit of a headache to defend against. So I'm glad that we seem to be at least trying to address it. I think there are 2 glaring holes in our squad at the moment. One of them is number 10, one of them is left wing, Sonny being gone and James Maddison being injured. But the noise is starting to come out that we're trying to address those areas. I was really, really worried about also just taking out so many goals and assists from our front line, like Maddison, Kulusveski, Son, losing them all at the same time through both injuries and transfers. That's a lot of goals and assists. But it looks like maybe we might be starting to rectify that now, which is much needed. Because if we go into the season against Burnley with the current squad that we have now, I think we're really undercooked. I think we definitely need 2 big signings. But fingers crossed, it looks like we might actually be trying to do that. So that's really good.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. I think we've kind of finally realised, Sonny, that we need to go out and get a player that's going to hopefully bring back those kind of goals and assists. Now, I will butcher his name, so I'm going to allow you to do it, Sonny, because I think it's in the region of 70 million euros at the moment for this player from City. So what do you kind of make of, A, the rumours coming in, and do you think it's actually going to happen?
Yeah, I mean Savinho is. I think it's a. Although I'd see he was called Savio, so I'm not. I'm a bit confused with why he's called two different names. Probably that Brazilian thing. But yeah, when this broke last night, I was already in bed, so I didn't see it till this morning. And at first, I was a bit like, this is a guy who's only been at City for a year, scored one goal against Leicester, which maybe is something more than our players managed against Leicester last year. Losing and drawing against them. But he did get 8 assists. And the 8 assists he did get in the Premier League were pretty good. They were very varied, some good crosses from deep that, Haaland nodded in for a few, and a really good dribbler. I've seen the clip of him. I forgot he nutmegged Udogie in a game. I think what Frank is looking for, and what we haven't really had, and what we don't have, especially at the moment with a lot of the injuries, players who can hold on to that ball and really retain it and dribble with it from deep, which is what Kudus offers. We've seen him really impress so far in pre-season, and also Savinho. I feel like these players are seen as market opportunities, and we've seen that City are looking, hopefully, and this is quite good in a number of ways. They might be looking to sign Rodrigo now from Real Madrid, which is obviously an Arsenal transfer target, so that's good to benefit us as well. But I think the more you look into it, if we can get him for a reasonable fee on reasonable wages, maybe a loan with an option or an obligation as well, I feel like it's worth a punt. I feel like he's got a lot of potential. He's 21. He's a profile that we wouldn't usually go for, and the sort of effect it gave me when I heard the news was like when Arsenal signed Jesus and Zinchenko from City, and it was a bit of a statement because they went to a club who are bigger than them at the time and gone, right, we will have 2 of your players that you don't want, but we see there's a bit of potential. Maybe those 2 players haven't really ended up setting the world alight, but I feel like under a good manager like Thomas Frank, who can improve them, who sees the potential, who wants it, we saw some quotes over the weekend from Thomas Frank saying that he feels like at the moment he's not as aligned with Johan Lang and Tottenham in terms of transfers as he was at Brentford, which is obvious because at Brentford he'd been there a long while. He was integrated, he was assistant, so he was integrated in that team and squad completely. Whereas this is a player he wants. He wants it. On the Fabrizio Romano tweet, it said that. So I feel like it's one of those ones where I want to see it happen. I feel like he's got the versatility to play in, the 10, the left, the right. I do like the idea of it. My one worry is, my dad, when I texted my dad about it, he was sort of like, if it's a player that City want or have, then, it's a good player. But, at City, it's sometimes, we've seen today they're willing to get rid of McAtee. Grealish is going. It's a tough gig playing for Manchester City. Pep likes to rotate a lot. And I'm surprised they want to get rid of him more than Doku. I feel like Doku's been there 2 years now. And Savinho's only been there 1. I'm surprised they're so reluctant to actually let go of him. And then my final point would be, in a dream world, and I know a lot of people, there's a comment there that says Eze. I feel like we need something else, but I'm not sure if it is Eze. And the reason I say that is I'd love it to be Eze, but I can't see Tottenham going, well, here's 60, 50 on Savinho, and here's another on Eze. I feel like we should go out and sign maybe someone who's got a potential maybe then in the 10. Like I've touted Nico Paz from Como on my channel. I said James McAtee. Maybe that would be a good option. Say we had got Morgan Gibbs-White. I think that would have been amazing if we got him and Savinho. But yeah, it's one to get excited about because he has got that potential. He has got that flair. And, we said this about Mohamed Kudus. Funny enough, all the signings we made this summer, there must be 1,000 receipts on WhatsApps when I've gone, Polina looks a bit shit, or Kudus isn't that good. And now I'm like, oh, actually, maybe they have got potential. And it is sometimes circumstance. Big small fish in a big pond comes to us, and it might be a bit different. Same with Kudus, wrong environment at West Ham. 3 different managers in 2 years. Sometimes you do need a bit of a change to get the potential. But yeah, I'm looking. I hope it gets done now. I'm just a bit worried that we might not cough up the money.
No, it will be interesting, and I think that's the thing because obviously with this news, I was kind of under the impression, Billy, that if he can play on both wings, does that mean we'll maybe see Kudus in the middle? I know someone here said Bergwall's more capable of playing at number 10, but I feel like now that Maddison's going to be out for so long, we can't purely rely on Bergwall. Do you think if Savinho does come in, we'll potentially see Kudus coming in through the middle instead?
I hope not. To be honest, I do think that he can play there without a doubt. But I want to sign someone. I want to sign someone else to play there. I really like the idea of having Kudus on one wing and Savinho on the other. I think that would just be an absolute nightmare for any defender. That is just, it's what I've seen a couple of people hark back to Bale and then, and obviously it's not quite that level, but it's still, having two incredible dribblers both side of a striker that's what I want. That's what, when I pay my money to go and watch football, that's what I want to see. I want to see two electric wingers either side of a striker. That's for me. That's what it's all about. I want to sign someone for the number 10. I think Bergvall has struggled there a little bit in pre-season. I think personally, I always see him more of a number 8. I think Sarr, the experiment didn't really work there either. I would much rather than trying to sort of put round pegs into square holes, I'd like to go and buy one. I think obviously the dream world would be as Sonny says, it's a lot of money. That would be 3 players over 50 million this summer. It's not something that we would typically do, but I want my club to show ambition and go and do it. I think there's some other good options on the market as well. There's people like Bilal, Kudus, Leicester had a really good game at the weekend. There's people like Paz, as Sonny mentioned. There's lots of good players there. So, I don't want to stop with Savinho in our market because I think losing Maddison and Kulusveski for both long-term injuries is such a big hole in their team that it needs to be addressed with another signing, I think.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. I think we've done it for far too many times where we've tried to, like you say, put round pegs into square holes. I think I said that the right way.
Yeah, I was thinking myself, or I said it right myself, to be honest.
I was second guessing myself then, but I think that is true. We've done it far too long at Spurs, and when we know that these big players that we need to come in and fill these kind of gaps, we need to go do it properly for once. Especially where now we've got these winners in our team. It feels only right to go and get just to push us on that little bit more. Obviously, talking about wingers, Sonny, I think there's another player that I haven't really seen in pre-season. To be honest with you, pre-season's been a bit of a blur, and I have missed a few games, but Solanke hasn't really featured, which for me is another worry. Do you feel like he will be ready for the season, do you think? Or do you think there's something going on in terms of he's still injured sort of thing?
He's only had one game, and that was the first half against Reading, because I think in the Reading game it was 2 separate teams for each half, 2 different 11s. I am not worried about Solanke. I see a lot of people, my comment section and across Twitter and whatnot, being like, we need a striker. We need to, they keep putting Solanke in this, like, we've paid 160 million for Solanke, Ritchie and Brennan Johnson. And also adding Brennan Johnson there I find a bit weird as well. I really think when Thomas Frank gets his hands on Solanke when he's fit, which I think he is coming close to return to fitness. I think he's in the squad for the Super Cup on Wednesday, but maybe it's a bit too premature for that. I feel like he has the potential to be the best forward that Frank has worked with because, and I think I've said this on a video with you, Billy, he has got all the attributes that all of Frank's other forwards have or had. Ivan Toney had that sort of like hold-up play. If Vicario wants to send it long, Solanke will bring it down and bring someone else into play. He's got the pace like an Ollie Watkins. He's got the skill and like ball retention of a Ben Rama. He's got similar attributes to Wissa and Mbuemo and all that sort of thing. So I really feel like if we can get him performing and get people around him maybe creating a bit more. Because last year I feel like Solanke was doing a lot of that dropping deep and the Harry Kane style role. And I just want him to be up there between the 2 sticks, basically put the ball in the back of the net. And the delivery he'll get from Kudus, hopefully Savinho, maybe a front 3 of Savinho, El Kudus and Kudus is like what everyone wants to see in football. Everyone's sick of all these like players, like they it's like the Eden Hazards and Adel Taraps of the Barclays man sort of thing. So but I've seen Newcastle link with a move with El Kudus, so hopefully they'll get rejected again. But going back to Solanke, I just feel like a lot of people slated him last year and I think it was harsh. I feel like if he hadn't had his injuries, I think people forget how injured he was. But I think you just got to take the game against Aston Villa where he does that finish where he's just onside and he chipped over Emi Martinez. That's Dom Solanke at his best. And if we can do that more and actually deliver for him, I just feel like there was so many games where he was running, he was pressing, but I just don't remember him being served. I don't remember moments where he was getting the ball to feet or crossed to him and whatnot. to really finish off. And even I feel like in the Europa League run towards the end, he was involved in some really high pressure moments, like the penalty. That wasn't easy, and scoring against Bodo Glimt as well. Like he's class. I really think he's good. He's at that perfect age. I just feel like my one worry is like Richarlison isn't. Richarlison has got, like, even during pre-season, I think Richarlison's been all right. He's still not fit. I don't know if he's just still nervous after his injuries, or he's so injury prone now. I would only sign a backup striker if we were looking for a number 9, but I don't know who that is. I don't know who really wants to. Everyone was saying Visser, but Visser will want to start, and maybe some people say Visser should start over Solanke. I don't necessarily agree with that, but there's not many strikers out there who who fit that mold of backup to, unless you're going for someone who's got a bit of potential. But yeah, maybe if you keep Richie, I wouldn't mind. It's just, I'm very surprised we haven't sold anyone yet. I don't know, maybe I'll throw this question to you guys. Are you still surprised we haven't seen any outgoings, or do you feel like that we haven't really got many sellable assets, and that we don't really need to sell, maybe?
I don't really know. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of loans, but that's the young boys. It's again, people have come and we had rumours that Basuma was going to be sold, didn't want to go. We've had rumours that Richarlison was tried to get sold off, but doesn't want to go. I mean, Billy, it's a great question from Sonny. Is that what you're kind of feeling as well? Is it more players don't potentially want to leave, or do you think clubs just don't want to buy them?
I think it's probably a bit of both of those things, to be honest. I think we need to be a lot more ruthless in our selling of players, and we need to be a lot more ruthless in saying, sorry, you've had a fantastic time, we won the Europa League, unfortunately you don't fit our future plans, you need to go. And if we look at some of the teams that are surrounding us, or certainly the teams that we want to be surrounding us next season, like Chelsea and Man United and people like that, and I hate having to do it to players that we all love, like Richarlison, but sometimes you just got to freeze these guys out and say, look, you need to look for a new club now. Something that we never ever do as a football club. I know there's obviously, there are different ways of selling players, but I just don't think we have that ruthlessness in us to get rid of these players, really. And I think, Richarlison absolutely loves the club, and I love Richarlison as a personality. I just think, sometimes this the time that the club comes to an end, a natural end. And I think that's the case for Richarlison. I think it's the case for Basuma. And I think, someone like Chelsea would probably have sold both of them right now for about 25 million, 30 million, and they'd be looking at 60 million that they can go and spend. So I think we definitely need to be a little bit more ruthless in our selling of players. I also kind of think, like, we just don't have the links that other players. Like we never seem to sell anyone to Saudi, like Chelsea and Man United always seem to do. We don't seem to have those Saudi links. The Saudi thing is a whole, obviously, moral debate which you can go into in a whole podcast about whether it's right to that side of the game is right or whatever. But the fact is, these clubs pay a lot of money for players that are easily on Richarlison's level, Basuma's level, but we never seem to have it in us to sell to those. So it's a bit frustrating, really. But I definitely think we need to be a lot more ruthless with our selling of players.
And I think as well, like we just mentioned then as well, obviously we haven't necessarily sold them, but we put them on loan. I mean, Sonny, for you, obviously seeing Mikey Moore, I know he today signed another long contract with the club, which I believe had to be done when he was 18, so that's fair enough. We've seen Donnelly obviously go out on loan. There's a few other players as well. The boy, what's his name? I can't think of his name, but he's down in Portsmouth as well on loan. So there's a lot of players going out on loan, Sonny. So for you, do you feel like we potentially got building for the future in the right place? We're just not potentially, like Billy said, moving on the players that do need to kind of move on out. His mic's having a bit of a funny one tonight. Billy, I'll throw that one at you while Sonny fixes that one. Oh, he's back.
Do you know what it is? It's because of the way my wire is. It, like, every time I touch my laptop to unmute myself, I'm just muting it anyway. So I'm just going to stop touching stuff. I was checking Jamie Donnelly's age. That's what's annoying. I was actually looking. I think are you talking about Yang when you talk about on
That's
loan?
the one.
I still think these players are a little bit raw. I mean, I saw someone saying, Jamie Donnelly had a really good debut for Stoke coming off the bench, and I think assisting the third goal in there, 3-1 win over Derby. I only know that because he was in my ACCA. But I feel like they've just not got enough yet. I feel like they still need a bit of experience. Yang as well. Even there's some players there like Alfie Devine, Dane Scarlett, maybe a few of them who a loan away from then a permanent move. I think we're just getting them off the books for a moment. Mikey Moore as well. I actually still think he's quite raw, and maybe needs just game time that he won't get at Spurs this season. I know we're playing a lot of games. I know we're playing Europe, but we don't really want to be chucking them in Champions League games. They need to go and actually get, blooded in the Championship, or, a lot of them are getting Championship loans, which is really good. And like Ashley Phillips, for example, going back to Stoke as well is good. Alfie Dorrington going on loan to Aberdeen again is good. So I'm pretty happy with how we've loaned them out. I think Portsmouth's a good loan for Yang as well. I feel like they're just not ready yet for what's going to be expected from this team. And I think that's perfect moves. And I still think I said this before, like this was before the injuries. I do think our squad is good. I feel like we've got a good squad. I feel like we've got some nice depth in midfield now. Bergvall, Gray.
Oh, he's back. Billy, do you want to come in? Do you want to see?
Sorry,
I agree exactly. He's back again. But yeah, I do agree. We do have.
Sorry.
I think we do have a good squad, and it's probably the 17th finish is probably disillusionising a lot of us. And I think Thomas Frank has obviously been brought in to get more maximise out that squad. And I think it's a bit frustrating. Fans in the last couple of days have been seeing things where he said like, I don't want another left back. I'm happy with Ben Davies and other players. But I think Frank is a good coach, and he'll back himself to get the most out of these players. And that's really what he's here for. I think, I don't think we've been sold a lie there. I think Frank is here to get the best out of our squad that we already have. And then we can obviously add some additions to improve that as well on top of that. But I think the main reason why we've chosen Frank over other managers is to get the best out of the squad that we already have, if you're honest.
And I think, stay with you, Billy, because I think obviously the debate about Davies, I think he is staying purely, he'll probably feature in some European games or maybe in domestic cup games early on, but I think he's there because of the changing room. We've just lost Mr. Tottenham, i.e. Sonny, to then lose Davies as well, that's basically been here as part of the old guard since times can remember. I mean, I think that's why he's staying. I think that's why Frank wants to keep him.
Yeah, and I'll say a couple of things about that. Firstly, I actually tweeted a couple of weeks ago, actually, I don't think we need a left back. I actually would be more inclined to say we need a right back, because you've got Jed Spencer can play there, who's brilliant. I think he's a better left back than a right back. You've got Udogie, who looks like he's just about to come back into fitness. That's two as good a left back as you're going to see in the league anywhere. Then after that, you've got Mickey van der Ven, who can also play there, plays there for Holland. Played there a couple of times for us. And then you got Ben Davies. So people are going, Ben Davies, how is a club like us relying on Ben Davies still? We're not relying on Ben Davies. Ben Davies is not going to get loads of minutes next season. I think he's there. And I think Thomas Frank is now maybe 6th or 7th consecutive manager to come out and publicly praise Ben Davies. Every single manager that he's ever had has publicly praised Ben Davies. Every single one. And you think about the different managers that is. You've got like Mourinho, Conte. People like Mourinho and Conte, they've worked with like all the players, the European players that you can imagine. They've both singled him out before. Ange singled him out. Pochettino loves him. Now Frank has named him already in the month that he's been here. This guy is like football gold. You need people like that in the dressing room. And I think I remember there was a video that was doing the rounds of when Kudus signed on Kudus' first day, when they showed the behind the scenes. And on that very first day, you could see Ben Davies making an effort to go and talk to him. And maybe you don't know anyone else in the squad at that point. And I think stuff like that is invaluable. And I'd be very happy to keep him around. I'm not saying I want to go into a Premier League game with Ben Davies playing at left centre back or left back, but I do want Ben Davies in the dressing room for those Premier League games for sure.
100%. I think that's the thing sometimes we kind of forget as fans, that they're humans at the same time. And the fact, like you said, that managers have come out and praise him every single time, there's got to be something that man does to bring the team together. Okay, and we saw that he was best mates with Sonny as well. I mean, that just kind of gives you everything you kind of need to know with the man.
And that video that he posted where he was flying and they left Sonny's seat empty, that was a bit of a heartbreaker, wasn't it?
I was going to start crying again. Please don't. But no, I think he needs to be around Tottenham. But obviously, talking about another new addition in a position that we've needed for a long time, Sonny, and again, I'll butcher his name, but that is Polinia. He's come in. Obviously, I don't think his first debut was all that brilliant, but I'm hoping that's just first time nerves. So for you, how do you kind of feel that player coming in and what he's going to bring to the squad and what we've kind of missed last season?
Yeah, and hopefully you can hear me now. I've connected to my AirPods because I've given up with this. I felt sorry for him in that, because that was his first solid piece of football for about 6 months. Had an injury last year as well. literally, I mean, if you go on transfer marks and look at the problem is people look at minutes. If you, look at appearances. If you actually look at his minutes, he was like playing 5s and 7s and 8 minutes towards the end of the game, and that doesn't really count. He's also gone from a system where Bayern were expected to have a lot of the ball, and he was expected to be really high up the pitch. I've watched, if anyone's not seen it already, Adam Cleary does a really good analysis video on Palhinha, and just looking at his heat map compared to last season at Bayern and the last season he was at Fulham, it's like absolute day and night. And the Fulham heat map will be more of what his heat map will be like at Spurs, just expecting to shield that back four, distribute not long passes or breaking lines, just sort of getting it to the opposing 8 and then the wingers and going for it like that. I just think he is something we don't have. I feel like the last midfielder we had like this was Højbjerg, and we saw with him maybe he wasn't the most versatile of midfielders, and he was asked to play in a midfield 2, which was quite restricted in the 3 at the back because he was expected to just run the length of the pitch. Palhinha won't be expected to do that, which is ideal. I just feel like I've said this already, we should be playing him and Bentancur in the same team, and it should be sort of one of them starts, and then towards the end of the game, when one of them's getting leggy, you sub the other one on. Or for different game types, you might play Palhinha away at Anfield, away at Arsenal. You play Bentancur where we're going to have a bit more of the ball, like Burnley or Sunderland, for example. I feel like they're different game type players, which is ideal. I just feel like, especially now with Bentancur, who is the other player who's more ideal to play the 6, since his 2 injuries, he's not been the same player in the sense of he's just not got the fitness and the legs, and he's a bit more fragile. So I think it's good. It's a stopgap. We might not trigger the option. I think it's only a €25 million or £20 million option to buy if we want him. And this time next year, there might be an opportunity to sign someone who maybe fits the bill a bit more, or we put money down for a world-class talent like an Adam Wharton or a Carlos Baleba before they inevitably gets snapped up by a bigger team.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing, because last season, Billy, there was so many times the ball through the middle and they're right through to our back line. So it is nice to have this addition in the side.
Yeah, definitely. And we were just, I loved the end result of last season, but there were so many games where we were just so easy to play against. And I don't think for the specific job of tackling and intercepting, I don't think there's many better in the league. I think him and Kudus are right up there for duels and stuff. And I just want to, if there's one thing I want from last season, I just want to be a bit harder to play against. A bit like, I feel like so many games last season, the opposition probably looking forward to playing us. We're a bit too soft, really easy to cut through our team, as you mentioned. And it's just, having Palhinha there is just an instant improvement on that. I would have maybe liked someone a bit more creative, like Sonny says. Like watching the game yesterday, Adam Wharton was absolutely unbelievable. I think if we did manage to sign him next summer, that would be a transformational signing for us. There you've got the number 6 for the next 10, 15 years there straight away. But I think this is an absolutely fine stopgap to maybe be in a position where next season we can go and sign someone like Adam Wharton. But that would definitely be the dream.
It's definitely one of those signings, like you say, that we've actually gone out there and been like, right, we actually need to fix this problem. And I'm glad that we've done that. Obviously, we've mentioned there's other things that we need to do. But right now, I'm pretty happy with where we're kind of at it. But obviously, before the season does start, we do have that big game on Wednesday. Now, Sonny, I don't know how you're kind of feeling about it, but playing the mighty PSG might be a stretch too far for us this early on. How are you feeling for it?
I just want to make one more point that's just come into my head about Palhinha is Frank will use him like Norgard as well. I mean, Tottenham are obviously interested in him. And again, if you look at Norgard's stats in Brentford last season, they're very similar to what Palhinha's were when he was at his best. So I just want to chuck that in there. But looking ahead to PSG, I'm not optimistic at all. They're missing 2 key players because João Neves is banned because he got a red card in the Club World Cup final against Chelsea. And Donnarumma's future's really up in the air in the last couple of hours. So it looks like he's not going to play either. And we know how good he's been during their Champions League run. So they're 2 massive. I think they've just signed a new keeper as well from Lille. So, he might come straight in. But yeah, PSG... I mean, ahead of that game against Chelsea, I would have argued they are the best team in the world. You know, the way they dispatched of Inter Milan, who you could say play a similar style of football to Tottenham, just shows how potent they could be. Doué's fantastic, Okola, Kvaratskhelia, and Dembele, and the midfield is class as well. They'll just bring in another class midfielder like Zai Emery or Lee Kang In. So it's just like for like. My only positive thing is that they did get beaten by Chelsea in like what was in the end a massive upset. So they're not invincible. They are there for the taking. I can imagine Frank's learned from the Bayern game. He's not going to set the midfield up like he did. And at the end of the day, there's a piece of silver on the line. We win trophies now. So we got to go out there and try and win. I mean, the jokes are just flying around already, aren't they? That people are looking at the kickoff says 20-100 and everyone's like, that's going to be the score. And then also people are saying it's going to be so Spursy when we beat them, lose to Burnley, beat City, and then lose to West Ham the week after. And I'll be honest, I'll take that. You know, if that's going to happen, I will take that because, you know, I'd love to, you know, I just want to see the league gunner tweet, and I know Billy will be all around it saying what phase is Frank in. I want to see, like, you know, all that sort of stuff that we saw yesterday with the Glasner, you know, banter and Palace banter, because, you know, there's nothing funnier than just being like, well, we've won another trophy, look at us, sort of thing.
No, defo. And it's actually quite funny because Jay literally said the same thing to me today. He was like, it'd just be unreal, wouldn't it? We'll win Wednesday, lose at the weekend, and then beat City. Just normal Spursiness resumes. But you know what? I don't care if we win another trophy. I mean, Billy, how are you kind of feeling?
If we win Wednesday, I don't really care so much about Burnley, to be honest. This is and I say this as someone who believes that we're going to lose at the moment, obviously just because of the opposition. But I see quite a few people saying, is this just a friendly, like a glorified friendly? I really don't think that it is. I think it's a massive trophy. It's like you have to be a European champion to be in there in the first place. Like the best teams in the world compete for it. I don't think it's a glorified friendly whatsoever. And I say that as someone who thinks we're probably going to lose it, rather than saying, you know, I'm just going to not just saying that because if we win it, but it'd be massive. It'd be just to have Tottenham the Super Cup winners would just be like, wow, that's just incredible, isn't it? It just sounds incredible. Actual champions of Europe. I think our only hope, and it's like maybe a 5% hope rather than a 50% hope, is that they've only just started their preseason at the weekend. So, you know, maybe we'll be the fitness will be there, but I'll be honest, I think if they had the rest of this week off, they probably beat us. To be honest, I don't think they need to worry too much about fitness. They were my absolute favourite team to watch last season. I think they were unbelievable in the Champions League. That front three that they have is just the best in the world. And I think, you know, I'm not sure how Chelsea managed to do it actually, because every time I see PSG, it looks like they're going to win by about 4 or 5 goals. They're just an unbelievable team. So I mean, absolutely no shame in losing it. I just, you know, maybe the fitness at that level of sport comes into it more than we care to realise. That's our only hope. Yeah. But if we can somehow get a win, I've just read today that it goes straight to penalties as well. So, and Donnarumma's not going to be playing, so maybe we'll have a chance for a penalty shootout. But I'm definitely not downplaying it as a friendly. I think it'd be absolutely massive if we won it. And I think it's the first time we've ever been in the Super Cup for some reason. I know we've won the Europa League twice, the UEFA Cup twice, but I don't think we've ever been in the Super Cup. I can't remember why that is, but I do remember reading about it. So it'd just be massive for us, I think.
Definitely. And it gave us a big high going into the mighty Burnley at the weekend. But obviously, it will be an interesting game. I mean, Sonny, if there's one thing you kind of pick from that PSG game, regardless of the kind of result, is there something you just want to see before we fully kick off the season?
Sorry, say that again. My audio cut out.
That's all right. I was just saying, if obviously, regardless of what the score is, whether we get thrashed, etc., what is one thing you just hope we kind of see before the season kind of kicks off?
God, that's a good question. I just want us to I mean, I saw the Thomas Frank interview where, I don't know if it was from, he did a Q&A. I don't know if it was from there, where he was like, and people were saying, Ange said he'd win a trophy. And Thomas Frank just wants us to work hard. And it's like, but I actually prefer that. I actually want the team to go out there and just be pragmatic and sensible on the ball and just go out there and just do what's right. Like, don't overthink it. And the thing is, there's a lot of Spurs fans who are quite up in the emotions at the moment about Ange's sacking, and, you know, was it the right thing? Was it the wrong thing? Is Frank going to take us to a next level? Where could Ange have? And I just feel like we've just got to go out there, get maybe 1 or 2 more signings in, including Savinho, and just show what we're made of. You know, I think it's a big year for Romero. I expect him to, you know, not been confirmed yet whether he's the club captain. I feel, but like he will, I assume will. Like he's got to step up now and be counted. Vicario as well is probably going to be the vice captain. We've just got to be, more clinical in front of goal because I don't. The thing is, our biggest issue, it surprises me that we've done this, is we were such a good attack inside under Ange, but because we're lacking creativity, I feel like we've now just got to be more potent in front of goal. So Matthias still going one-on-one has got to be putting that away against Nick Pope, for example. Odebear and people like that have got to be really clinical with their finishing. And I just hope, like, if we create enough chances through these new attackers, we should be really good. And I'm hopeful we will finish in a solid place in the Premier League, and hopefully, I back Frank to be able to juggle the games that come his way as well. He's not an idiot. Everyone's acting like the bit that makes me laugh the most is everyone's like, how is Frank going to handle the Champions League? And it's like, well, Postecoglou, every time he was in the Champions League with Celtic, would absolutely get annihilated. So I know it was Celtic as well, but it's horses for courses. We just got to see how this season goes. We're on the eve of it nearly. And I was just looking up as well. The UEFA Super Cup doesn't say it's a friendly, whereas on the FA website, the Community Shield is. So it's a European thing. They take these Super Cups really seriously.
Love it. No, hopefully we do get the business done on Wednesday, because then obviously, Billy, we go straight into Burnley. There's no kind of stopping there, no kind of hold the horses, because obviously, with that being said, Burnley at home isn't going to be an easy game because it's Burnley. We know it's going to be difficult to kind of break them down. And at the moment where we're finding it quite hard to kind of find our rhythm up top, how do you kind of hope to see us kind of start the game, or how do you think he's going to line us up?
Well, I'll tell you what, if we have Savinho playing against Burnley, that'll make a massive difference to if we don't have him. That's the kind of thing you want against a low block, is Kudus and Savinho on either side. As we spoke about earlier, that'll be huge. I actually have a feeling it's going to be a really difficult game. I think it might just be like a 1-0 max. I think their defence last season was absolutely ridiculous. I think they had something like 15 0-0s or something like that, and they're by far the best defence in the Championship. I think it's going to be a really tough game, and obviously they've signed some experience in Kyle Walker as well. They've got Estevez, a really good centre back. They really, really know how to defend this team. So it's going to be an absolutely horrific low block that we're going to come up against. And you just need one thing to go your way, really. I think Kudus is going to really help with that. He's an incredible dribbler. I think, actually going back to what we were talking about earlier about pre-season, I think Kudus has been by far the stand-up player for Tottenham. I think he's been excellent in every game that he's played. But I think if we can have Savinho as well on the other side, that would be massive for this game, because that's the kind of way that you beat a low block, is by having two relentless dribblers that can beat people one-on-one.
100%. I think that's something you kind of missed last season as well, because obviously I don't want to rip Johnson, because he was always on the end of the balls. But Billy, that's not what Johnson was.
No, and people have been sharing this diagram today where you look at the stats of both Savinho compared to Johnson in one of those web diagrams, and they're pretty much polar opposite winger as you can get. Like, one is, Savinho is an incredible take on winger, incredible dribbler, incredible beating 1v1. Johnson is not that, but what Johnson is a specialist goal scorer. And actually, Sonny mentioned it earlier. If you actually watch the video of Savinho's assists, which is going around on Twitter at the moment, I think he got 7 assists for Haaland last season. And a lot of them at the back post. So it'd be quite interesting to see. I think Johnson might benefit from that, actually, because Savinho is really good at beating a man and putting a cross in the back post. And there's no better at the back post than Brennan Johnson. So that could be something to look out for as well, I think. Maybe using Johnson as a striker a bit more this season or something like that.
But also, like, surely the definition of a transfer window is signing players that you don't have, or you're looking to find different things to what you haven't got already. And our signings are that. Takai, I know he's injured, but he's more of a ball-playing centre-half who's a bit more comfortable on the ball. But I know Romero is, so maybe it's something a bit different to what we have in the backup. Pellegrini is like a midfielder that we don't have. Kudus is a winger we don't have, and Savinho as well. So I definitely think Frank sees Johnson as like the Embuemo of the equation, where he's going to say Porro's going to be, on the wing and delivering from that side. You're going to be in that, I hate using this term, half space. And we're just going to be delivering balls across. And you're going to, maybe, we don't see Johnson start as many games, but he comes on in, the 60th, 70th minute when a team's a bit leggy Because the thing is as well, and I mean, I feel sorry for him, but there was a report going around that he watched every one of our games from last year, so I feel sorry that he had to sit through all them. But we just couldn't break down low blocks. And Kudus and Savinho, they're good at passing, they're good at dribbling, and that's what you need to break down a low block. Not just pace, not just bombarding like that, like that Ange wanted to do. So yeah, I'm pretty. I'm wondering what else we do, because I know a lot of people saying Eze. I've even just seen a tweet saying Eze moves back on, but it's from a source that I've never even heard of. I don't think it'll be him, but I feel like there's another 10 there. I feel like Harvey Elliott's future's still up in the air. El Kudus we mentioned as well. They're the ones where I think, beat Newcastle to that, or just try and beat Leipzig to Harvey Elliott. I feel like Harvey Elliott would be a really good transfer, like first start, and also could play on the wing as well.
No, it is interesting. Like you say, it feels like there's fans out there that aren't necessarily understanding that we are going to players that are slightly different, because like you said, I think Frank is under the mold that he will be able to try different things, whereas Ange, we kind of knew the patterns of play, how we were going to play, what kind of molds, and we kind of duplicated those players in the same kind of places. So I am excited for the season, which kind of leads me to ask the last couple of questions kind of in general of how we think the season will go next season and your kind of expectations. So Billie, for you, how would you like next season to go? Where do you expect us to finish?
I think a lot is still to be decided depending on the transfer window. I think if we can sign 2 players, if we sign Savinho, that'd be a big difference to us. And I think that'll be a real differential in finishing in the league. And if we did go and sign Eze or a number 10 as well, I think that'll put us in a much better position. I think Sonny is right with what he said earlier. I think we need to be I think if we're honest about where we are at the moment, we're probably looking at finishing around teams like Newcastle, Aston Villa at the moment. I think being brutally honest, we're not ready to challenge the top 4 just yet, top 5 even, as it probably will be. I think 8th and above is a really good season, but last season, for a first season anyway, but last season has just got me addicted to winning trophies. I would love a cup run in there as well. That's what I really want. And I think, with Tottenham, you always get that thing where we can beat anyone on our day in our stadium. We showed it last season when we got to the semi-final. People forget we beat Man City and Man United on the way to do that. We actually beat Liverpool as well in the one-off game, and then we lost them obviously in the second leg. But we can beat anyone on our day, Tottenham. So I would like to go on another cup run for me. I think realistically, I think anything about getting back into those European places would be a good season for us. And then, we need another couple of transfer windows of quite big spending before we're going to look at the top 4 again, especially when you look at the way everyone else has spent this season.
And I think that's the biggest thing. We need to actually sit back and be like, right, we've won something. We need to chill out. We need to find our space back in the league.
That anxiety that we've had for so long,
there's no
15,
pressure.
17 years, every single season, but we have to win something this season. That's gone now. And while I do obviously want to win more, we're actually at a stage now for once where we can actually rebuild and actually properly rebuild, rather than just think, well, we're not really rebuilding, we're just trying to win a trophy every year. Now we actually have won that trophy. So now it's actually a properly good time to rebuild for once.
Definitely. I mean, how about you, Sonny? You kind of in the same kind of feelings, in a sense that trying to get ourselves back in the league, but hopefully go and win another trophy, because that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, Billie sort of said it there. You've got to really think about how the league's going to go next year for all the teams in and around us. The top 4, I think, decides itself. That's whatever order you want: Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Arsenal, whatever order. We're in that realm of those middle teams like Villa, Newcastle, maybe Manchester United. But then what you got to remember is there's going to be a lot of teams who were above us last year who are in massive transition as well. Bournemouth have lost 3 of their back 4.
Palace might lose a couple of players, it looks like.
Yeah, especially with that news. You've got Brentford, who have lost everyone. And West Ham, I mean, everyone's on the fence about them this year. You've got the promoted sides who are spending quite a bit, but no one knows, this could be the first year where not all 3 of them go down. There's a lot of Fulham haven't done anything.
Forest, had a terrible preseason.
I think they're gonna really fall off personally. So there's a lot of that could happen, and that is football in a nutshell. I just think a successful season for us would be a cup run, but if we don't win it, I won't be. I'd like, no one can tarnish us with the Spursy brush anymore, because we won something last year. And if anything, I think those trophies would be bigger than an FA Cup, or the Europa League, in my opinion, is bigger than the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. And we're not going to win the Champions League or the Premier League. So we're only going for 2 out of 4. If we finish Also, if fifth gets Champions League, then there is that push for that. But if we finish between 6th and 8th, get to the round of 16 of the Champions League, just so we get that money, and we'll probably get knocked out there, and then have a cup run in one of the others, then let's see what happens. Let's just have fun this season and see what happens, and be patient, because I feel like we need to be more patient than we were under Ange, because I feel like Ange was so gung ho, and it was this manager's going to be has to now take all the, there's so much backlog from what all these players have gone through, like going through Conte, Mourinho, Ben Davies was there with Pochettino, and Ange as well. The fact that they've picked up, I know they're footballers and they should, but the fact that there's already signs there that they're sort of, learning to defend a bit deeper. But then there was, the Bayern game was the perfect example of, we were defending maybe too deep, and that was why there was no one closing down those long shots. So there's still bits to learn, and we are probably going to lose to some big teams still, but Frank is going to be able to negotiate this. He's got all the data behind him, and I just feel like it's just got to be one of those seasons where it is going to be a transition. But I just don't expect us, and this will probably get clipped up, I just don't expect us to be so bad form-wise. There's no way where we might go 2-0 up at half-time against a team and then lose 3-2. But, if we go 2-0 up, expect Frank to change. We might go 2-1, or it might go 2-2, but don't expect the same. Like, he's going to change in game. He is going to change game by game. And it is going to be, Rome wasn't built in a day. I think I will give Ange some praise. He won that trophy. I respect him all the time, but he did lay some good foundations. He's put a winning mentality back into some of these players. And also, I feel like the players he did sign are good players. And it just means that someone like Mickey van der Ven isn't going to be doing his hamstring every other minute. He is going to be able to recover. And I think that's what we've seen from James Maddison getting injured. That is still a hangover from the style of football we were playing.
100%. I think that hits the nail on the head. And just in the sense that I'm just excited to see how football is going to be different under Frank. Obviously, I was still a bit sad that Ange got sacked. I wanted to see that third season. But actually now I'm sat here thinking, I can see a little bit more. If the game's not going right, I know that Frank's going to change it, or I hope he's going to change it. Things would say that he is. So I think that's the most exciting thing for me. But it all kicks off very, very soon this weekend. It feels weird. It feels like the summer, I literally blinked and the summer's gone. But I'm happy to be back, and it's going to be a nice, fresh start. But I want to say our goodbyes and thanks before we go. So we'll go around the table. So Billy, thank you once again for coming on. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Always a pleasure. As I said before, I'm a big fan of both you guys. So just Billie T on Twitter and TikTok as well. And look forward to another season, getting into it.
100%. Thank you again, Billy. And Sonny as well. Thank you also. Where can everybody find you doing your thing as well?
Yeah, Sonny Talk Spurs on YouTube. We're on the road to 10,000 subs. So hopefully we can get there by the end of 2025, but it's growing quite nicely. I'm actually quite shocked. And then Sonny Talk Spurs on TikTok, and then Sonny Snelling on everywhere else. What's it called? Instagram, etc. Thank you.
No worries. No, thank you for coming on. And like I say, thank you to everybody that's watched live, that's going to go back and rewatch this. I just wanted to say, it's been fun doing Hollie Hotspurs. I'm glad that we're back. Obviously, next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing it on a Tuesday instead of a Monday, but we are normally Monday 7 p.m. But we'll be back next Tuesday to talk about obviously the Burnley game. Hopefully we'll be another European champion to talk about as well. But like I say, really appreciate everyone that tunes in and watches, and hopefully see you next time. And like we always say, come with you, Spurs.
Come with you, Spurs.